Ready to stop guessing and start growing as a trader? Welcome to Vici Trading Solutions, a community built by real traders for serious learners. We don't just post trades, we teach the why behind every move. With a full education section and daily breakdowns, you'll start seeing the market like a pro. You won't be trading alone. Inside the Vici Discord, you're surrounded by committed traders, from futures pros to rising crypto specialists, all learning and winning together. Gain first access to our exclusive indicators, powerful tools used daily by hundreds across TradingView and beyond. These aren't gimmicks, they're built to sharpen your edge. Each morning, our founder posts a full trading plan for the S&P 500 or NASDAQ and calls out the levels he's watching live. No fluff, just clarity. Education, tools, community. Whether you trade futures, stock, or crypto, Vici gives you the foundation and firepower to grow. Join Vici, trade smarter, conquer the markets.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Happy Monday. Hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I know I did. It was awesome. Just kind of laid back and chilled. Took the 4-day weekend to the utmost. For those of you guys who follow along, I actually spent a lot of time making content, going over stuff. So hope you guys got a chance to soak all that in. I feel like there were some gems in there. I know that everybody was kind of out and about doing their thing this weekend with family. So things are a little slow on the work front, but hopefully you guys will get a chance to get caught up. So before we get started with everything today, because it was another great day, just again, following the plan, doing what we're supposed to be doing. Let's start here. If you are not currently following me right now, definitely please follow me on Substack and Twitter and YouTube. It is all Ryan Bailey Edge. Also, as well, this is also my handle for TradingView. I have released 2 indicators for the masses. You're more than welcome to it. Just follow along and get in there and check it out. I also released a post that had them in there, or maybe I didn't. Maybe I need to do that actually. But anyways, they're in there. Check it out. You'll see it. It's pretty easy to remember because it's the same across all the socials. So definitely check it out. Also, in this link, in this post below, if you are not a Substack subscriber, click on the link. It takes you to a landing page. Punch your email in there. Get 30 days free to the trade plans. So worth it. I put a lot of time and effort into these every morning, at least an hour every morning into these trade plans, and they play out like butter. If you follow the plan, life's great. So certainly make sure you do that for yourself. Do it for me. Do it for others. Because once you like it, once you experience it, you're going to like it. You're going to retweet. You're going to tell other people. It benefits both of us. So today was a crazy day. We're going to go over quite a few stuff. I mean, ES was a little slow. Futures were slow. And, it was relative volume started out today at about -13 and ended the day at -40. I mean, we just lost participants most of the day. But it was a slow, grindy day. We expected the pullback in the morning. And then, of course, we were, getting long off of our support that we talked about. So let's get into that. I actually want to go over a few things. And just because it was, Monday, it was a little slow, we're going to talk about the ES. I kind of started working on this content right before we needed to start this. So I don't have a whole lot to show you other than, I personally took 2 trades. They were both longs today. And that's how it worked out. So let's get right into it with the AM context. And I'm going to talk about a few things as well, why I'm doing this, just so it all kind of comes together here. So this was from the Sunday plan that I put out for everybody. And again, these are free every Sunday. This is my flagship ordeal here. I put this out. Anybody is more than welcome to it. Certainly will help give you a little idea of what to expect for the upcoming week, especially with Monday. So this is my AM trade plan for Monday. Obviously, people in the room get a little bit better trade plan as I come in and I start talking to my channels, which we'll show here shortly, okay? So on Sunday, the first thing I said was I would expect a little relief on Monday or Tuesday. They need to rotate a little bit. So we know that we moved up 350 points in one direction over the week, and it showed, obviously. They squeezed hard last week. Something you guys should put in your notebooks as well is that the week of Thanksgiving is historically the most bullish week of the year. If you don't know that, now you know. And remember it for next week or for next year, okay? So we are obviously getting into the most bullish season of the year, or one of. We're coming into the end of the year. lot of earnings. Everybody's spending money. And so, we anticipate the Santa Claus rally, et cetera. And so, we had the week going into Black Friday, which is very bullish. And then now we have the rest of the year to kind of maintain this momentum. And so coming into this day, though, however, we knew that we were a little overextended. Even right here, we're in a big spot on this structure. Wouldn't surprise me to get a little smack from this area, especially knowing where VIX is right now. So we talked about VIX also in the plan. And we said every time we get into this territory, we start to get a pop. Well, a pop on VIX means a pullback in the indices. And so that is certainly what happened there. So let me go ahead and pull this up for this. So this was the context for SPX. I actually, in this plan, I did SPX, ES, and VIX all in the same plan just because it all made sense to me. So, I'm always looking at one for the other, especially SPX, as it is the lead, in my opinion. It is the true indices where ES is simply a derivative. And so we have to play, I use SPX as the boss. It's the lead, right? And so with that being said, I still lean on my levels for ES, but I look hard at SPX. So SPX on Sunday, or Friday, I should say, it actually gained on the weekly. So we have a really strong close on the weekly, which leads me to believe we can still go up a lot higher on SPX and potentially make new all-time highs, and we'll probably do so shortly. But again, that doesn't mean that we're not going to pull back first, right? And so I even said SPX is looking bullish. They close on the weekly above the leg down, but that doesn't, and there was a high probability for new all-time highs. But we have this resistance this weekly at 68.45, right? Just because we didn't lose on the weekly doesn't mean it won't get a reaction. It could pull us down before propelling us back up. So the key support zone here was what we got really close into it this morning, was 67.96.29, and we'll get into a little bit more than that here shortly. But as you can see, we smacked from this area here. We actually fell 45 points, or actually, well, it was at 68.50 on Friday. So we came down 50 points from this area, which, as you know, we did the same thing in ES. We actually fell all night in the overnight session, and we came into our significant support, which was pretty awesome. So I actually used this daily today, even though we didn't exactly touch it. I used that in combination with ES to, kind of get my bias as well for this long this morning. We also had in the plan, and I didn't take any clips of this, but I'll show you. And this was in the plan. You can check it out on Sunday. The idea was to stay below the 1860 daily here for VIX. As you can see right here, we touched it and they came down. Well, when they actually were up 10% this morning, VIX was elevated at 10% gap up. Once we started to rotate down, I didn't know anything, but my presumption is knowing what we were coming off of on ES, which we'll get at soon, that we would at least fill this gap, if not come down into the 1635, which we did get pretty close. We absolutely did fill the gap, but, started to fill in this area down here. And so we'll see what tomorrow brings. This is kind of how I put the whole thing together, just to show you guys, what this looked like this morning when we started, just so that you understand how to put this stuff together. So this is my pre-market plan for the peeps in the room this morning. It was important for everybody to kind of, understand where VIX is at, right? So we had our arrow drawing right here from 1860, and really the 1952 is the untested daily area. But as long as we stayed underneath 1860, we were going to continue to move higher, which is exactly how that played out for us today, which was awesome. So as you can see, let me pull this over here. Well, let me pull this over first. So in the morning, this was part of the trade plan. So we had fallen all night from this area that we closed out on Friday. We came all the way down, and here was our daily at 68.05 and our 4-hour at 68.03. Okay. We have a massive TPO ledge at 68.25, which I'll soon show you. They held this all day Thursday and Wednesday before popping up, and it coincided with the daily at 22. Okay. So that was that. So let me just go ahead and pull this over here, and you can see this was from Sunday. So we had this massive TPO ledge at 68.25. And you're probably like, what the hell is he talking about, TPO ledge? Well, let me show you, right? So on the weekly time frame, we had a massive TPO area here where they had sat for those 2 days and then popped. Well, for me, this represented a huge above below area for us to move above or below, right? Which was right in line with our 22 daily as well. So we had like this 3-point zone essentially of what needed to get filled or cleaned up. And, this is why I kept saying above or below this area is going to be very important. Okay. So just the way I showed here in this picture, above the 25, we continue to push up into 40 or even higher. And then below the 05, we come down and we check out the 88. Well, as you can see right here, we were starting to form a very nice W, which I gave a shout out in the room about, which certainly helped a lot of us get on the right sided track here. So this was from this area. You can see this is the above or below at 22. And then we had the daily that was right smack in the middle, the untested at 05 and the ugly 4-hour at 03. Okay. And I'm just going to pull over and you can see they played the 4-hour at 03, retested, and we popped up. And that was the day basically constantly defending the 22 area pretty much all day. Now, I know a lot of you guys are probably saying, well, what's up with the smack? Like, what made you think that this area was going to come down? And why did I choose that area for support? Well, first, this area, just like we talked about in the video, I talked about it on Friday, this was a highly untested area that was essentially our high lost. Okay. So we have this amazing move here. Actually, let me find my pen. So we keep having these sub legs that go down, and each one of these has gotten played except for this area, which is essentially our highest untested spot in this massive move to the lows. Okay. And this particular area, I even talked about it on Friday and we talked about it again on Sunday. I said, somewhere in here, we're going to get a smack. I don't exactly know where it's going to be. It could be up to 79. It could be here at 61. And then so right now, this was a 4-hour at 61. They played perfectly and pulled back into our 03. Okay. And 03 actually played to the tick. But the reason I kept talking about the daily, guys, and I'll pull this down for you. For those of you guys who have been in the trade plans for some time, we have talked about this 05 daily that has played over and over and over again. This was the previous all-time high that smacked down for 200 points. Then we continued to play it multiple times over for pops and drops, which you can see on the smaller time frame. And essentially, it was untested once again when we came down and sat on it last night. So, and then this was the area right here. So let's go ahead and get into how we played this, and then we'll talk about a little bit more about what we're going to do moving forward. So this was us in the room here today. So let's see, AM long in 2 parts. Here you go. So here we go. Let's just get into it. So again, as usual, telling everybody, here's our levels for above to below. Okay. And that, like I said, we use SPX as our main context. Okay. So we see this is the daily at 96 that I showed you guys already, that they got really close to it. They almost got there, but they didn't quite touch it. But I knew we were coming off the 05 anyway, and we started to look like a W out. And so I started to get concerned. Like I started to say, okay, maybe they're not going to touch it on SPX. Maybe it was close enough. So immediately, this is the same area as what we had. This was our 25 or 22 area on SPX. Now, mind you, I'm constantly looking at the RTH chart on ES. It looked exactly the same way. And I was looking for a push below and a reclaim. Okay. And that is essentially what they gave us. And this is how the 30-minute, and this is me again with, will the reclaim happen? Well, we could see that this is the 30-minute on ES. And so we knew the 22.25 was our big level to get over, right? And so I'm telling everybody, hey, this is starting to look like a W here. I think this thing is going to go, right? And so, as soon as we started, to have confirmation that we were above this area, I started to get long. Well, and I don't get long just because we're over this, because otherwise you can get trapped on the breakout. I prefer the pop above, and then when it comes down and then gets back above the second time. For me, it's the second attempt up, or even third attempts for that fact, that I'm a little bit more convinced of versus trying to buy on the first push up. Okay. So that was the initial there. Now, here we go. This is where we start to get into it, start having fun. This is our first trade of the day in the room. As you can see, we started to push above this. SPX is working. So it just wasn't following. It was kind of slow. See if we can get any follow. At this point, I'm buying above the daily, above, this other area. You can see my targets here that are taking us all the way up into that 4 hour that we pointed out earlier. That was at 68.40. And of course, as usual, I'm walking everybody through the trade because, we've got a lot of people in the room, a lot of people in the Discord, and they're watching to see what's happening. And so I want to make sure that everybody's, trading this well. They understand where my stops are at and exactly how I'm looking at this. We come up here and we grab these targets and look at this beautiful W. I mean, we were all over this from the inception. And SPX really did lead very nice as they pulled up through this. And the 30-minute RTH was nice too, which we essentially obviously already showed you. So this was our first trade of the day. This was a biggie, and it really kind of made my day, the first part of my day. And we had a pretty solid day today. So I will show you this because I didn't make a copy of it, but I will get into. So here was this trade right here. So bought down here and exited all the way up in here into the 40. See the 68.40. Okay. So, and then obviously I got trailed out on the way back down. Now, I didn't think this was done. However, this pullback was a little bit more than I was anticipating. Right. And so really what kind of gave me the idea that I need to get back in this, and I will show you this right here, was really one of two things. Okay. One, VIX was still coming down. Okay. Two, and actually I'll show you on this chart here. Let me pull this over because this would be important for you guys to actually understand this. I am a price action trader. Okay. So for me, I'm constantly watching every candle, watching the candles close, et cetera, et cetera. So we had this big push up here, and then we had another close right here, this 4 hour. We pulled back, and this is where I got trailed out of this 1 hour. And then we had another green close, and I'm like, okay, huge wick. Bears had every opportunity to screw the bears over, right? And they couldn't. They still closed green. So when the next candle opened, I waited until we pulled back into VWAP, and I started getting long. And I got long all the way into our upside targets, okay? So as you can see right here I am again, long off of this VWAP. I bought VWAPs again. So based on the fact that we're over the 22.25 and we had a nice 1 hour close, I think we can keep pushing. VIX needs to close higher, okay? So as you can see, I had targets all the way up in here to the highs. And then we start to look at, I wanted them to get in here in the 40s. The 40 was my main profit-taking area, which I did take most. And then after that, I kind of left some runners. But this was a really interesting view as well. So this was the point. This was the TPO for the day. We had a poor high, which generally needs to get repaired. And they came down. This had a huge tail from the buying. They cleaned it all up and didn't make a new low. And then I got to looking at this, and I'm like, look at all the volume. This is all buying volume. Only the selling was at the lows, and they got stuffed. And so we had all this buying volume. I'm like, this is insane. If this thing catches traction, this could really boogie. And it did, as you know. So, and this gets even better. I got something else that's coming into this. This is really important for you guys. So pay attention to this, okay? So I'm looking for my targets higher, which, they never ended up getting me. I kept following these. I thought they were going to get me. They didn't. I ended up actually riding this all the way up. This was another one of my targets up into 47. So we got these. And I ended up taking this much higher, but I'll tell you why. And I wouldn't have, but one thing happened that we've talked about multiple times, okay? So as you can see, this is that VWAP buy again that I was telling you, because they, had this strong close down here. I thought it was interesting to show you guys this. So ultimately what I ended up doing was I took this last target and I ended up getting 55, which was almost the high of the day. 56 was the high of the day. So we had a fantastic buyout for this, and it really just came from the VWAP candles. But let me show you something that really happened that kind of turned me on to this. And this was what it was. Okay. Oh, you know what? This was the one I was supposed to show you. Okay. So here it was. So check this out. If you guys remember, I posted an article and I talk about setups all the time. I talk about probabilities. I talk about, because that's what we do. We trade probabilities, right? We find something with a higher probability and we lean on the statistics. That's what trading is. Okay. So let me find this. Hang on one second here. Here we go. So what happened is we actually triggered an 80% rule. So I have an indicator that tells that I just built it over the weekend. It tells me when we start to get into the 80% rule. And so it was actually triggered here as soon as we accepted value above the value area low. And I was targeting up at the value area high, but I was actually moved it down a little bit because I wanted a front run, which was at 56. And it worked out perfect. So for those of you guys who don't know what the 80% rule is, go into my Substack, go underneath Inside the Mind of a Pro Trader and check out this right here. This is a fantastic setup. This is when the profile basically, and it works both for longs and shorts. Okay. If you open below the previous day's value area and push into the previous day's value area and accept value in there for 2 or more blocks, there is an 80% chance that you will come to the value area high. So as we were pushing up and we start to accept value, I realized that we have now entered this 80% rule. And so, again, at that point, I had now even more confidence to hold my runner all the way until the high. Okay. And it worked out perfect. And that was the main reason. Now we're obviously letting people know the whole time. And I'm obviously walking people through where my stops are at, et cetera. You can see this. We were able to bring it all the way up here to 55, 56. And I was in this trade for 2 hours plus as we're kind of letting this thing simmer. And then again, as you can see, I told everybody I took 55 like a putz, but almost got 100 points on the day. So 2 longs, 100 points, followed the plan. As long as we were above 25 and 22, we were long Dong City. And it all came down to the simple fact that we were, popping off this 05. I actually expected a little bit more out of this today, but, the area that we're hitting, it makes perfect sense what's happening. And, we've got VIX kind of simmering at the lows, and we've got a weekly right above us on SPX. And so we'll see what happens tomorrow. Right now, what can happen tomorrow? Well, it's hard to say. I got to be honest, because right now we are kind of just simmering in an area where I'm not in love. Okay. I would prefer to come down a little bit more personally, and so that we can buy it up. And let's just talk about that right now. Actually, let's just pull that up. So let's see where we're at. I'm just going to pull over the 4 hour here. So right now, pull this down. They can technically hold right here. We're going to continue to use 22, 25 as our above below pivot. Now 05 is absolutely tested. Let's go ahead and change this to significant. But keep in mind that below 05, momentum shifts in the favor of the bears substantially. Remember what happened over here? They played 05 twice, and as soon as we got below it, they just absolutely got decimated. The same here, above 05, it moved really fast to the high. So we have to be aware that 05 is going to be a big level for us while also monitoring the 22 area. Now that TPO ledge is kind of a little played out, I'll go ahead and get rid of this and we'll lean on the daily. But it certainly served its purpose today. Now, below this, we have an untested weekly at 88.50. And then ultimately the area that I really want to buy, which is this 65 spot. We've got the 50-day moving average. We've got a daily at 65. We've got a weekly at 61, another weekly at 68, and another large TPO ledge at 70. We had a big put wall down here today at 77. So there's a lot of reasons to like this area. But I will tell you this, and I said the same thing in the weekend review. I would be very concerned below this area. Okay. And yes, there is a massive amount of support right here at 38. This is the subleg to the all-time high, which we've talked about previously. This is a great level. But once we start to lose below this 65, which is the previous leg to the low, I start to get worried. Okay. Because momentum shifts pretty considerably. And that doesn't mean I won't buy this, but I'm just telling you, I get concerned. The 38.23 is, starting to get to the point of being questionable. Okay. Just because we start to lose levels again. So that's what I'm looking at for tomorrow. We'll see where we open up. It wouldn't surprise me to see this thing bleed off a little bit into tomorrow again. It didn't look like we had a very strong close today. But again, as long as they're above the 05 and above the 23, this thing could certainly kind of work its magic. So that's it for the ES. Let's talk about a few things. We got a couple minutes. I wanted to share two things real fast. A couple of things I thought were funny. And let's just talk about this over here. So you guys know I've been harping on this weed stock, MSOS, for a while. We basically called the exact low right about $3.17. I had people on Twitter giving me so much shit. Oh, you're fucking buying the bottom. Oh, it can go to zero. Oh. Listen, I knew there was too much bearish activity on that to even be worried about it, right? So long story short, we're up 35%, 38% from these lows right now. 31 from where I measured it there. Probably is a little lower if I start from the exact low, but it's a pretty good start so far. I know this has been a very nice push for me. I'm, fairly heavy. I got 500 shares of this, and so I'm going to let this ride. And I really want it to go up really high, as you guys know. Be smart to probably take some profits around 632, but I think that this thing, if we start to get lift off, we're looking at about $9 for T1, and then really $12 is going to be a huge spot. And I think we're just getting started on this, and this could take a while. Okay. So, but I'm okay. I got nothing but time, especially for someone that could pay 300, 400, 500%, maybe 10%. If I can get up to here, this is 300% for me. I'll be happy with that. And again, I'm a big weed guy. I like weed. I like the industry. I like everything about it. So, the rules and regulations are tough. I told you guys, I had 2 dispensaries in Denver. I was one of the first 5 people, and it is a very difficult business. And the government does not make it easy. You can't have your money in a bank account. So once they were able to kind of change the rules and regs a little bit, this thing's going to take off. And I like the simple fact that we're starting to get a little mojo on this already from our area. Makes me very confident. We're getting a good start. And so really pleased about that. Okay. So hopefully, I know there's some guys in the room, at least one in particular, he's already up 33% or something. I think he's literally bought the absolute bottom, which congratulations for him. I know my average is a little bit higher than that. I'm in about, 340 or something like that, because I actually bought on the way up and I never got out, and then I reloaded more down here. So the other one I wanted to show you guys is starting to get a little traction. This is that car company I was telling you about out of China. I actually did a post on this over the weekend. If you haven't, check it out. It's called the Scorched Earth Trade. These guys are so huge. This is the #1 EV manufacturer in China. They are dominating everyone, and they make their own batteries. They make their own chips. They make everything in-house. Nobody can mess with them on prices. They are essentially lowered their prices so much that they're squeezing their competition out. They're squeezing out Toyota. They're squeezing out Volkswagen. And this was a Warren Buffett favorite. He actually bought the stock way down here and got 2,000% profit on it. He has since got out of this stock, but we are in a spot now where I couldn't help but take a little poke at it. And, these guys are really blowing up. I mean, they are expanding to Turkey, Brazil, a few other places. And look, their sales in Italy surged 535% in November, which was awesome. And so really liking this trade so far. I don't think you can go wrong with this. The risk is small. It's like $2. So, got a couple hundred shares, let it go, risk $2. It could make new highs, and it'll be a good one. This thing looks like it's got nothing but long-term growth, in my opinion, and it looks like we bought a good spot. So I think this is a good hold. I also think this is going to be a great one here. This is also a good spot. And then here's the other one that I just started buying, guys. And I did one on this video on this over the weekend. This was my Oracle trade. I've been buying in here, bought this today. For more details, obviously check out the trade, the post, but this has the opportunity to be a huge play as well. Really like this area that is playing. This is my signature setup, or one of monthly, weekly area. So I've been buying into this probably a little bit heavier than I should have, but hey, I wanted to own some of this AI bubble shit, and I think Oracle's a good one to start with. So, we'll see. So that's what I got for you guys. We talked about the ES. We talked about a few trade plans. Oh man, we didn't even run out of time, so I'm not going to get into it. But God, Bitcoin, crypto got murdered. I don't even understand what happened. And I got murdered. I bought, so I bought the lows on Bitcoin and Ethereum with spot. And then on Friday, I'm like, man, this thing's going to keep going. I'm trying to get to 100 grand. I bought a bunch more with ETHA and IBIT. And this shit caved in. I mean, it just caved in. They opened on Sunday. As soon as the futures opened, this thing tanked like 5%. It was insane. So certainly caught me off guard. I'll tell you that. But, I'm a bag holder, so I got no problem with buying this stuff and DCAing in, especially for ETH and Bitcoin. But my God, what an interesting day. So thankfully, we have some other stocks that have made up for it and kind of balance things out. And I hope you guys have enjoyed the trade plans. Again, please join me tomorrow, same time, same place. Obviously, sign up for the Substack if you haven't done so already. The link is in this post. 30 days free if you've never signed up before. And check it out. I mean, we just kill it every day. As long as you follow the process, follow the plan, size correctly, you're going to make money. And it's just one of those things where that's the whole purpose of these trade plans, is to give people structure. And I do it for myself, just to make this very clear. Trading is a profession. It's not a game. We're not here to gamble. We're not here to guess. Our job is to extract money from the market every single day. And if you come into this game, or whatever you want to call it, without a plan, you are destined for trouble. So, the idea is we come in with looking at specific areas that we want to do business at. And if the price comes to those areas, we have a high probability of getting a reaction in these spots, which is exactly what we're here to do. We want a high probability of extracting money from this market. Everything else is noise. And so if you are trading these markets without a trade plan, you are making some serious mistakes. And you know it, I know it, I don't need to tell you that. So sign up for the trade plans, follow along, join me on the weekdays, check out how the plans work, talk about what we're going to do next, and, throw a few other trades out there that you guys can make some money on. So anyways, have a fantastic rest of your day. Stay warm. It's super cold out. My dog wants to go out all the time. He's a husky, and I am fucking dying out there. So you guys stay warm, stay by the fire, and I will see you tomorrow. And for my Substack subscribers, I will see you in the morning bright and early for the trade plan. And together, we will conquer the markets. Cheers.